Today is Sunday, March 17th of 2019, and I'd like to wish a happy St. Patrick's Day to Coin Trader over in our Discord chat. Today, many Bitcoin experts are calling for a pullback, a correction, whereas I'm still a mega bull. Let's take a look at our indicators today and see what they are telling us. This is the 24 hours of Bitcoin. You can pause the video to read our disclaimer or click on a link in the description down below. Let's dig straight in here. We're looking at the weekly view of Bitcoin and we have the RSI indicator down below. And I am circling the only two times that the RSI has ever been this oversold. And as we pull the chart back, we can see that it was right after the big downtrend of 2015. And it's important to point out at this point, at this time in the chart, that the RSI was making a beautiful divergence from this double bottom that we had. Now, after I point that out, I want to go back to the current time. And another important thing to point out about the RSI is that it went on an uptrend for more than a year after that down bottom there that we saw. So prices, and then after that, we saw the RSI was overbought, all the way along as we went through the parabolic phase, which it should be. This is what we're watching for the RSI for in the future. Now, another thing to point out is that just because we have the rising RSI doesn't mean that we're not going to get some volatility in the prices coming up and coming back. The thing that it does tell us is that there may be a more fantastic time to be taking a position coming up in the future. And we'll see how that plays out. So here we are in the weekly view of the RSI again. Let's move into the 1 month view. And what I'm looking for here, I'm trying to see is divergences in the RSI. So I'm looking to see if we got lower highs here, lower highs there. Nothing really diverging, nothing really different. We have higher lows here, we have higher lows here. So nothing really diverging there, nothing standing out to me as a change yet. So all is good for a bullish move. I'm not seeing any bearish divergences stepping up here. The next indicator that we'll take a look at is the on balance volume. And to start off with the weekly view, back in the last time we had the big crash in a recovery, we can see the on balance volume was deep, was less deep and less deep, and we had more and more buying. And then from September of 2015 all the way to a year and a half later, it was positive on balance volume on the weekly for that whole time there. It looks like a flatline chart, but it actually went from 250 to about 750. It actually tripled in price inside this range. And then we went into the bull market phase. And a really key thing to notice is that right at this time when we had the largest volume of trades, this is exactly when Bitcoin, and I can't circle it, but this is when Bitcoin had the highest searches on Google. It's also the time when the institutions were selling and all of the public was buying. So now we're at a period where the institutions are buying and the public is sick of it. They've lost a whole bunch of money. So it's a very interesting time to be watching what the on balance volume is doing. Let's zoom in on this now to see what's happening as we get in close. Let's start off with a 3-month view. So here's the 12-hour bars. And we can see that we've had a nice trickle of steady on balance volume through these last few months throughout this bottom formation. No big turnarounds of huge selling that are overwhelming the buying right now on that time frame. As we get in closer, we can see one divergence that I like to look for is there strengthening or weakening of the selling or buying. So selling is weakening, buying is strengthening. And as we go through this, that just gives me the indication that there's more buying and that prices are going to be breaking higher from here. Now let's go look at the MACD indicator. So here we are looking at the weekly view of the MACD indicator. This crossover here, let me make sure I can click properly. This crossover on the weekly and the positive histogram is really key to see this bottoming out and crossing over. That's very bullish overall in the long term. When we start to zoom in on this, we're starting to see that we still have a trend to the upside, but on the daily, things have steadied just below. Now they've steadied just above, which to me is bullish. We're seeing a stronger and stronger MACD indicator, although we're not getting good crossovers here until we start to getting closer. Now when we're looking at the 4-hour bar, we're seeing that this is just touching and the histogram is coming weaker. So if this crosses over and goes down, and this moving out, this 1, 2, 3 top formation breaks and we start to go weaker, I'd have to reevaluate the other indicators to see if they are also going more bearish. But from this indicator, just in the last short while, this is showing positive histogram. It's showing a positive movement. We've just got to continue to watch. It's only in the 1-day view that even here we're seeing higher stages here, and it's not convincing to me that this is turning around and going down. So the last couple things we're able to look at on our daily reviews is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Stellar Lumens, and Litecoin, to see what they're all doing. Because if these are all topping and starting to come down from here, if they're all starting to break these bottom trend lines here on these charts, then we'll be watching for a lot of bearish action. But until these kind of trend lines are broken all at the same time in these different markets, I'm still feeling that these are all support underneath and that we're going to be going higher, especially when we start to get out to the longer term view and we start to see where these bottom formations are, how the volume is picking up. I think we're in for some historic moves to the top side. And the last thing we'll look at here before we sign off is the study that we're doing on the other channel, link down below, where we review all of the cryptocurrencies on Poloniex against our trend change trading plan. And you can see here that we're running out of bullishness to measure. It's just topping out in bullishness and bottoming out in bearishness. This is the perfect time to be watching for those top formations. And in addition to watching for the top formations, we're looking for continuation patterns. So prices that have moved up and consolidated and have a chance of going up from here are prime for our continuation study. So here's a market that has moved up, pulled back and consolidated, and is in a position to really do its next step up in a continuation. So if you were with us in our trading alerts and you were fortunate enough to catch this cup with handle formation that shaped up here on the 4-hour bars and the 1-hour bars, we got into our trade here, we kept our trade and didn't get stopped out. We didn't even want to get stopped out, left our stops back so far. Now it's time for us to consider adding on to that trade, because we've got enough profit up below the trade to like a cushion here, that if we add on to the trade now and it proves us wrong, we can still get out and not be at a loss. So the way you put together your trade is likely more important than your actual entries and exits. That wraps it up for this show today. Thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate your audience, and I'm interested in your comments about these indicators, the RSI, the on-balance volume, and the MACD indicator. Leave your tips and comments down below the video. Thanks again. I will chat with you tomorrow about the price of Bitcoin.